Hi friends. We love to stock our pantry with yummy food from our homestead and our garden. And every year we're canning stuff, we're putting a lot of things in the freezer. But we've started to branch out a little bit to put some things into jams and jellies. To have that wonderful taste that you can put on a slice of bread or on a biscuit is just so great in the middle of the winter to taste that freshness of spring or from the fall. And this year we've actually branched out a little bit more and gotten a little bit creative, maybe bold, maybe risky with another ingredient.
So we've done all the traditional ones, right? With the things that we harvest here, the berries especially that we grow, like strawberry, blueberry, and blackberry. When we can acquire some pears, I love a good pear jam. And our figs are super abundant, so that's become a staple for us too, fig jam. But then we really wanted to branch out more. So last year and this year I did violet jelly. And oh, it was so pretty, and it made some really great gifts with this little jar. But hey, we've come up with yet another idea.
That's right. You know, these are all about what we already have on the property, what we already grow. We might freeze some, we might can some, and then we decide, let's do a little jelly, right? Well, this year, I decided to grow something only for the jelly, which is a lot different, and that is jalapeno peppers. We had some friends come over one time, and his name's Michael. Michael had made this wonderful jalapeno jelly. Now, I'm not a fan of hot peppers, and it was a little jarring to me to know there was jelly made out of it. But once I tasted this on crackers, it was just so good. It had that sweetness of a jelly, but it had that kick in the back of your throat of the hotness. And I really fell in love with it. And I told Michael that night, I said, I need this recipe. So he shared the recipe with me. Thank you, Michael. And we are going to make today some jalapeno jelly. Now, the jalapeno jelly will be similar in process to really any of the jellies and jams we do. And we'll walk through kind of the general process, but the specifics of the jalapenos.
So have fun with Dan while he makes this jam for you. He is the jelly and jam maker of the house. He really enjoys it. So you're gonna learn a lot if you've never made it. We're excited to show you. We're also just excited for ourselves to have yet one more thing to stock our pantry with.
As we prepare our jelly, here are the ingredients that you need. First of all, we need to have 12 jalapeno peppers. You might want to have an extra 4 set aside, and I'll tell you the reason for that in a little bit. The second thing you want is a bell pepper, a large green bell pepper in this case. If you want to do a red bell pepper, that's fine. Some of my jalapenos actually turned red on the plant. So if you wanted to do red to have a little bit of color in your jelly, that would be fine, but you want a sweet bell pepper. The next thing that's really important is apple cider vinegar. When you do jelly, you need an element of acid. And a lot of times when you do berries or fruit, in your jellies, you'll use lemon juice. In this case, we're going to use apple cider vinegar, which will go really well with the peppers. And of course, when you do jelly, you need sugar. We're going to have a pinch of salt and then some form of pectin. I use a powdered pectin, usually a low to no sugar pectin. You can also use a liquid pectin, and I'll give you the ratios of liquid to powder in a little bit. The first step is you want to make your peppers as small and fine as possible without pureeing them. So you take a blender or a food processor. I've already chopped these up to kind of a diced kind of texture. This is about 1.5 cups of jalapenos. Like I said, it's 12 jalapenos, but the sizes obviously vary. So about 1.5 cups, and the same amount on your medium bell pepper. So we have a blender that we'll use, and if you have to do this in multiple steps just to get it right, that's fine. But the goal will be to chop this up kind of finely and then put it in a saucepan. So take that and just hit it with a couple of pulses. Just like that. And then you can put it in the saucepan. One thing you want to be careful of, we're talking about hot peppers here, is working with the hot peppers, you're going to get some of the juice on your hands. You want to be really careful because once you get them on your hands and you forget, you touch your eyes, you touch your nose or your ears or whatever, that can get into some of the sinus or the mucous membranes and really cause a lot of problems, irritation. So a lot of washing hands with warm soapy water is recommended, and just stay away from your face. All right, that's the last of the peppers. It took me about 4 times to get just a little bit of it in there. and chop that all up to this kind of texture. There is a little bit more juice coming out, but it's not pureed. You want it to be just that really fine chop. And at that point, what you'll do is you'll add the acid, which is the 1.5 cups of apple cider vinegar, okay? We will put that on the stove and we will start boiling that right now. My pepper and vinegar mixture is now on the stove. I'll bring it to a boil. Once it starts boiling, take it down just below a boil and then let it sit for 15 to 20 minutes. All that goodness will come out into the apple cider vinegar. One thing you want to consider is how many of the seeds you want to leave in your peppers. I don't have many seeds in here at all. I pulled most of those out because that's where the heat is, and I wanted a mild heat in my jelly rather than a burn your face off type heat. But you can work a little bit more of those seeds into there to get a little bit more heat out of this. So when I thought about doing this jelly and doing jalapenos, one thing that was a kind of a restriction for me was the fact that I didn't use jalapenos in anything else, and nobody in the family really likes them apart from maybe the occasional nachos or something like that. And so the question I had in my mind was, is it worth it for the space in my garden to have these plants? And I was kind of amazed and surprised that it doesn't take too much space. If you really want something and you want to try something, find your space in the garden. This is 2 plants at a very small bit of area. And a similar example would be if you wanted to have corn on the cob for 4th of July and you wanted to grow 4 or 5 corn stalks in your garden. Plan on that space, and it's very limited space actually. You'd be surprised at how much you can grow in a limited space. To focus on growing those stalks so that by the 4th of July you can pull your corn and have a corn boil. That is the beauty of having a garden, is it is customized for what you want. And so this year I wanted to grow jalapenos. Next year I might not. It depends on how much jelly I eat this year. But that's an exciting part of gardening, is it's really customized. It's been 15 minutes. I'm going to take that cover off of our peppers. That's what that looks like. The peppers and the apple cider vinegar, it's rendered down quite a bit. We've got quite a bit of liquid in there. This now will go into our Pyrex heat-resistant glass container. And I have here a strainer. You can use cheesecloth or double cheesecloth. I don't have any of that. This will work just perfectly. Your goal here is to render down about a cup of liquid. You want a cup of liquid from this. So this might produce a little more than that. We'll see. Let's very carefully put that into my strainer so I don't spill it. And then as I get that in there, this is very, very strong smelling. So be careful when you open that lid, because it could it could come out very strong fumes at you. But just go ahead and push that down with a wooden spoon to get all of that liquid that is rendered down to come out. And you'll want to get 1 cup of that. Once you get 1 cup of liquid, you'll clean your saucepan out and put the liquid back in the saucepan for your next step. All of this pepper and vinegar mixture can be just discarded after you get the liquid out. Our pepper mixture is in the saucepan on the stove, but before we get to that and the next step, I want to talk a little bit about pectin. Now, pectin is the substance that you use to make jelly or jam set. It makes it a little harder rather than softer and liquidy. You want it to have that jam, jelly type of feel. There is liquid pectin and there is powdered pectin. I've always used powdered pectin. This recipe actually asks for 4 ounces of liquid pectin. The ratio between the liquid and the powder is 3 ounces of the liquid versus 2 tablespoons of the powder. The reason I like to use the powder is because with the powder I can use a low or no sugar version. And the nice thing about that is I can cut my sugar way down. This recipe actually asks for 4 cups of sugar. And that's a lot of sugar. And for those who are sugar sensitive or watching your sugar, you would consider doing this because you can still have the same chemical reaction with a low or no sugar formula as you do with the regular sugar. In this case, I have cut my sugar back from 4 cups to only 2.5 cups. You still need a little sugar in this case to have the chemical reaction start, but you won't need as much to finish it. And that's the reason why I use the powder. So again, the ratio is 3 ounces of liquid pectin versus 2 tablespoons of the powdered pectin. So in this case, I need about 2.75 tablespoons, just under 3 tablespoons that I'm going to put into our mixture. we'll heat up our liquid that has the pepper infusion in it. A pinch of salt is part of the recipe, so we'll just throw in a little pinch of salt. And we have our sugar and our pectin. Now the way this chemical reaction works is the pectin will not start to act in a gelling type of agency until you heat that liquid up. Plus it needs a little bit of fuel. So we're going to put in about half of the sugar and all of the pectin and start heating up our liquid. We want to bring it to a boil. Once we bring it to a boil, we'll let it boil for about 10 seconds or so, and then we'll add the rest of the sugar. After we add the rest of the sugar, you boil for 1 more minute, and I try to make it exactly 1 minute if I can. And at that point, you'll start seeing it set up. I love the idea that when you add the sugar to the pepper, you mix 2 different types of tastes. As I've gotten older, I've noticed that my flavor profile has changed and become a little riskier and bolder. You know, things like salt and sugar together just taste so good. Now that is kind of more normal, but think about things like chocolate and fruit. Not too many children really like chocolate and fruit, but as you get older, you like a little bit of berries maybe with your dark chocolate. And this is, for me, kind of the same idea as when I put the sugar in this hot jalapeno liquid and I make jelly out of it, that it satisfies 2 different parts of my brain almost, and I really like that. So as you make this, maybe for the first time or have this taste for the first time, you'll probably experience the same type of thing. Really a great experience. So this is now starting to heat up, and you want it to be a roiling boil. You want it to be a boil that you can't stir down. So get all that sugar mixed up in there, and it's starting to thicken up a little bit already. But the real magic will happen after you put the rest of the sugar in and boil it for that other minute. I'm not going to talk at all about water bath canning in this video. We will link at the end of the video a video that we have for water bath canning that's a lot more in depth if you're not familiar with that. There's also a link here at the top of the screen right now if you're interested in going straight to it. A lot of information regarding water bath canning for sure there. But what you want to do is you want to definitely at this point in time already have prepared your jars and your lids to be able to pour your substance, your material. When it gets past this couple of minutes here, you'll want to be able to pour that into the jars, and that jelly then will set really quickly. If you wait too long, the jelly will start setting in the saucepan, and that'll cause other problems. So we'll let it sit here for a second until it starts boiling. Come back. Okay, we're getting a boil here. Starting to see it. You can see it boiling right there. Okay, I can hardly stir that down, so it's been about 10 seconds. I'm going to pour the rest of that sugar in. Stir that around vigorously. At this point, you'll want to set yourself a timer. Hey Siri, set a timer for 1 minute. It's nice to have a watch that does that for me. All right, so here we go. And it's starting to get that thickness like a caramel texture. You want to keep stirring it. If you stop stirring it, it will tend to burn. All right, so we're now at the end of our minute, and I move this over here away from the burner, and you can see it's thickened up quite a bit, and it will continue to thicken up even more as it cools, as I pour it into those jars. I'm just going to keep stirring it here for a minute. Let it thicken up just a little bit more. It smells wonderful, sweet and savory at the same time. It's starting to harden up a little bit on the sides of the saucepan, so I'll start pouring this in right now. These funnels are really great to have. I recommend a canning funnel. Anytime you pour something or you load your cans, your jars, you don't want to bring that up to the very top. You want to have a little bit of headspace. Looks like I'm going to probably get two and a half probably jars out of this one. This is a small batch recipe, and if you want to do more, then you will need to, do some math and double those or triple those, make them bigger. All of those measurements. That's a beautiful color. I can't wait to taste that. See how it's hardening up already on the edges? So that's what we've got there. Now, of course, you'll go through the canning process and then let it set for 24 hours and put it on the shelf. So now it's been 24 hours and our jelly has set and cooled, and we are going to take the rings off, test them to make sure the seal is on, label them, and put them on the shelf. We got two full jars here that we're going to go ahead and store in our pantry. And I did the half jar, not canned that, I just put it in the fridge. I added an old peanut butter jar lid, which fits really nicely for anything that you put in standard size jars in your fridge. But it's not canned, and that's fine because that will last in the fridge quite a long time. We have tasted some of this, and it is fantastic. It has that nice sweetness and kick at the same time. Now, one thing that I did not mention before is we had these 4 peppers that were separate, set aside, and there's an option if you want, after you do the 1-minute boiling and the pectin has started setting and you've gotten that thickness of your jelly, you may want to dice these up and put them in your jelly to kind of make it more of a jam with a little bit of substance and as many of the seeds as you want to get that heat. That's just an option, but you might want to set a couple of them to the side to consider that option. We went with the jelly, we're really happy with that. We love to be able to take special tastes from our seasonal plants and seasonal produce and make jelly out of them. And I hope this has been really an interesting and inspirational video for you as well. And as always, from our homestead to yours, blessings.